Good afternoon, listeners. Welcome back to the EduSec series of lectures on Import-Export Management. I am Mrs. Nadira Chaturvedi. We have been having a few series on this. We began with what is the meaning of export management. Then we wanted to understand more detail about the marketing for exports. Then we graduated to the financial aspects, how to get finance, what is important in the costing, pricing, and how it is different for the domestic market. Then we did a series on execution of the order, meaning after you have got the order, how to begin getting the raw material and planning till you have shipped the complete consignment after packing and labeling. During that, we were also doing some import of raw material, especially if you need it for the execution of the export order. We have now come to the end of the series, where we will be doing the documentation and the very exciting incentives for export. As we have seen, at every stage of the process, right from beginning to offer our product until we got the money or we got the purchase order and we did the operations, we needed some paperwork at every stage to bring in the material, to store the material, to process the material, to avoid the duty or to fulfill the duty obligation. Everywhere we were using what is called, in a nutshell, documentation. Documentation is a crucial area and we cannot afford to be lax here. It has to be meticulously, that means every detail should be kept carefully, and administration of this becomes a full-fledged department called Export-Import Administration. What is documentation? It can be at two stages. One pre-shipment and the other post-shipment. So pre-shipment you need many items, like for importing of the material, storing of the goods, licensing, etc. And post-shipment you need the material to, after it is gone, you will take it for negotiation of bank documents to get your payment, or perhaps to get some subsidy, to get some finance, post-shipment finance, and maybe even to discharge your duty obligation. Because it is not enough to say that I have fulfilled my obligation or I have completed the order. When you are dealing with many countries, many languages, you are dealing with something so sensitive as foreign exchange and the utilization of that both for importing and for exporting. It is an important resource of the country that is being monitored by the FEMA Act or the Foreign Exchange Management Act. So there are many reasons why the documentation is used both for pre-shipment and for post-shipment. It is also used to get the incentives both before and after the export. Let us see what is the basic style of documents. We can divide this into commercial documents and regulatory documents and what is called other documents. Commercial documents basically are those documents which are required for any money transaction or recording of any duties or packing or material, that is goods are being sold. So it is the recording of the transaction of buying and selling of the goods. Regulatory documents are that category which is related to the policy of the government. It could be an import license, it could be an excise clearance, it could be a custom clearance. So it is related to the government policies and the departments. The third category is other documents which do not fall in both these. For example, a bank realization or a banking certificate. These are called other documents. All three kinds of documents are used in pre-shipment and post-shipment. Bunches of these are put together for different criteria, for different demand, for export clearance, excise clearance, custom clearance, import clearance, incentive claiming, etc. So it is basically the documents are the same, but for different purposes, for different uses, we will put them together. Therefore, let us see what is the basic kind of document and what is the meaning of each document and terminology. Let's begin with the commercial documents. Commercial, as we said, fundamentally is the transaction, that means the buying and selling of goods. So, the very first thing is the pro forma invoice. Invoice basically means billing a party for goods sold, but that is after sale. So, pro forma is a promise that you are making that if you buy my goods, this is the price I will charge for these conditions, for these specifications, for this validity period, subject to certain other detailed conditions. So, pro forma invoice is that document, a very valuable one, which the merchandising department, if you will remember the lecture earlier, prepares so that you can offer and write down every detail, whether the material is imported, whether the license is imported, whether there is a quota, whether the shipment is by air, sea, etc. All these details are written down in a pro forma invoice. If this is accepted, it converts into an export order, and the letter of credit is opened on this basis. In fact, all your production planning now begins on this basis also. So, it shows the value, quantity and the details of the promise of selling the goods. So, it is a very important one. After you have sold, you can call the invoice as a commercial invoice. It is used for custom purposes, and this same piece of paper goes into the foreign country, which means import country, and therefore it is made in the format as required by the imported country. Simple thing like a date. A date in India may be month comes in the middle, year comes in the end, and the date comes in the first. In America, it may be the month comes first, then the day, and then the year. So, if you are making a customs invoice, it has to be as per the norms of the importing country. Similarly, weights like kilograms or kg or metric system or the old system, all these are written as per the importing country. There is a third kind of invoice which is called the legalized or the consular invoice. This is the same as customs invoice. The information is the same, but certain countries prefer that their own embassy or consulate stamps it, checks it and verifies it before it is sent out for import. So, it is another version of the customs invoice. So, these are the basic invoices. Now, when you raise an invoice, naturally there must be some goods which are sold. So, the proof of that the goods are being sold and sent in the truck to the sea, from the sea or by air to the country, is called the packing list. Packing list, if we recall, the packaging of individual units, the packing of the bulk order which goes into the container, that is recorded by the packing list. It will tell you how many cartons are there, or how many boxes are there, or how many pieces are there, in which carton how many pieces of which size has been put, what is the grade in every carton. So, it is a detailed description, carton by carton, item by item, to prove that these are the quantities, this is the quality of the goods that is being dispatched. Now, when you make the packing list, when you make the packing of the goods, you would have called the inspector to certify that this quality is correct. You may say, I am packing grade 1 basmati rice. Actually, it might be grade 2. So, there is something called an inspection that has to be done of the goods before shipment, pre-shipment inspection. For this, as we discussed yesterday, there are certain agencies which are authorized. It could be your own agency, self-certification. It could be a government appointed agency like a silk board or a coir board, or it could be a private agency appointed by the same government, and it can also be the buyer's inspection. So, when you invite, when you call the person, it is called intimation for inspection. There is a certain prescribed format and you are inviting the export agency to inspect your goods. In this you will write all the details of the good. Once that agency comes and inspects, they will deliver. If they are satisfied, they will give you a certificate of inspection. That means these goods are matching the packing list, they are matching the export order, and now you can export these goods. So, in case the buyer wants, he'll do it himself or any other agency. But the document that you will get is certificate of inspection. Now, once this is inspected, packed, clear, you can start to ship it. So, the shipping instructions is another document which tells you in detail how the cargo or the goods have to be handled during transit. Suppose you are sending basmati. You will not send it along with some chemicals, because if the chemical bursts, then your rice can get contaminated. Or you may not send a garment with another liquid. So, shipping handling instructions are given, and as per the letter of credit or the purchase order, you have to be given that. In spite of all this care, as we said, there can be some damage. That is why you take a marine insurance. The insurance company is not the making of the goods, but they depend on what you tell them is the content of the goods, and accordingly they will give you the insurance. That declaration is called insurance declaration. The exporter will make it, he will give it to the insurer, and based on that, suppose you have done anything wrong or you have cheated, it is your responsibility for any losses. Suppose you have given 500 pieces but you are writing 600, you cannot claim the loss of 100 pieces later on, because they are depending on your quantities. So the value of the goods and the quantity of goods both become insurance declaration. Now once they are satisfied, they will also check. If they are not trusting you, they will check it. Once they check, they will issue, and you have made the payment to them for insurance, they will issue something called an insurance policy or an insurance certificate. You may have a general insurance policy for the full year, full permission. But for every consignment, as and when it goes, you will generate what is called a insurance certificate. This is an important part without which the shipping agent will not take your goods. Once this is done, there are many countries who need what is called a GSP certificate or a application for certificate of origin. Certificate of origin means, since we are in the global market, where were these goods made? Where are they manufactured? For example, yesterday we mentioned, if you are buying garments, you will read made in Korea, made in Bangkok, made in India, but it is being sold in America. So the certificate of origin is important for the importing country. There is another big benefit which is called GSP or Generalized Preference for Sourcing, where the international laws for export and promotion of developing countries have put together that if a developed country imports from a developing or a less economically forward country, then the import duty will be concessional or nil. Meaning, suppose you are exporting an item of $10 and that country has a 10% tariff, then the goods will be costing them 10 plus 1, $11. But if they buy it from a country which is a developing country, then the 10% will not be levied, no duty for imports, therefore the goods will cost them $10. So you can see it is price competitive for them, and also the advantage is that it helps to develop the developing country. This is called the GSP certificate. Another certificate that is given by the originating country. A shipping order. This is a reservation slip. That means the shipping line where you are booking the space is leaving some area allowing for you that your goods will come. You will catch the vessel on 19th February, let's say. Next vessel is sailing after 7 days. You will catch the vessel on 26th. If you are late, you will lose it. So when you book, when you start making your goods in the planning, we had also planned for booking of the space. And once the shipping line accepts it, this is called the reservation of space or the shipping order. Similarly, when the goods reach the ship and the ship is loaded with it, somebody on behalf of the ship now will take the goods. it will be in his care and custody. That is called the mate's receipt. That means the shipping mate or the shipping captain, the administrator in charge, says, yes, I have counted the cartons, I have counted the containers, they are in good condition and it is my responsibility to take them. That is called the mate's receipt. If you do not have this, the customs will not clear it. Bill of lading or airway bill. These two words are the crucial documents. The bill of lading is a sea document and the airway bill is an airline document. It basically means that the goods have been cleared by customs, loaded, received by the mate, and now you have handed over that precious cargo to the intermediary shipping line, who will now have the responsibility for safe carriage and delivery to your designated port and designated importer. So this becomes a document which is negotiable, transferable. In legal terms, it becomes a title of the goods. It has to be very carefully scrutinized. So when it is prepared, one should be very careful. Such kind of documents can be prepared by the clearing house agent, CHA, or clearing and forwarding agent. They specialize in this area, as we saw, that once the goods are ready from your factory or outlet or office, it is not easy to handle all the stages of clearances, and there are specialized people called clearing agents who will do this job for insurance, local transport, as well as making these documents. Their job finishes when they give you the bill of lading. That means we have checked, satisfied all the authorities, paid the port charges, paid everything, and it has been loaded. This is the basis on which your negotiation of money in the bank comes in. This is the basis on which your importer or your buyer will believe that you have sent the goods. It is an evidence. It is proof. Bill of exchange. Airway bill and sea bill, as we saw. Airway is for airlines dispatches and bill of lading. In the next link, therefore, once you have got the bill of lading, you will want to get the money. That is called, there is a document that you prepare where you attach many other documents, but the primary one, it is called bill of exchange. That means I am giving you this bill of lading. In exchange for this, please give me the money or give my authorized person, agent or bank the said money. Usually it comes through the banking channels. So therefore it is a very valuable document. It is the monetary version of the bill of lading. It requests the buyer to give the particular sum of money to the designated person. Now, bill of exchange again can be two types. One on site, one of usance. Usance means payable after a certain period of time. Both the kinds. So this will be again match the letter of credit terms. This is for the negotiation. Before you ship it, you will give something called the shipment advice. So once it is loaded, you will then know that the ship is going to move. Ships do not move every day. They have a certain timetable. They stay in the dock, they are cleaned, they are loaded, they are maintained, and the schedule of shipments is predetermined. So the shipping advice is an advice to the exporter that the ship has actually sailed or actually shipped. A copy of this shipping advice is proof, therefore, that not only was it loaded, not only was it custom cleared, but actually the shipment is now under progress and on the high seas. It is called high seas because they will be crossing many seas and reaching the country. So it is an valuable advice. Please be ready with your funds. Now it will take 3 weeks. There is always a fixed time when the ship reaches, maybe a day or two if there is a problem in the climate, but otherwise it is only a fixed date. Based on this, then you can go to your banker. So you make a letter to the bank for negotiation or collection of funds. This is called there's a standard letter format, and you attach the various things as we discussed earlier, the invoice or the bill of exchange or the bill of lading, but to present it to the bank you have a fixed norm. In this, one should be careful as to the letter of credit terms and ensure that all our documents are in place. Then comes since we are dealing in foreign exchange, we have something called the Exchange Control Declaration Form. It is basically a standard format again, a GR or a soft text as PP as it called. It is in advance, without yet receiving the money, a declaration given by the exporter to the Reserve Bank of India explaining this is the export value of the shipment, and because I have sent the goods out of the country, not for domestic use, because I have sent it without payment of excise duty, or I am going to claim my incentives and exports, I will promise that I will get the money back in 180 days. Now, based on that declaration, the foreign exchange is allowed to be remitted into your account. So, the money, the foreign exchange, since we are dealing in foreign money, it is not a free exchange of monetary value. It has to be governed by the rules of inflow and inward and outward remittances. So, this is an exchange control declaration that I have given the goods and this is the value and this is the money. I may please get it without any levy. We have seen that some people try to take out foreign exchange, try to take out goods without payment, but that is a loss to the country. That is why the Reserve Bank has these rules. Freight Payment Certificate. This is a simple certificate which says the freight of the ship is already paid. Similarly, Insurance Payment Certificate. Again, an insurance company, when they are doing the insurance, they will say we have received the payment and the insurance certificate is valid. If you do not make payment for the insurance, many times you lodging the claim, you have the policy cover. Policy cover was for that consignment, you did get it. But suppose your payment is not complete, then in the court of law, it may not be valid. That promise is subject to payment. Earlier there was something called Gate Pass 1 and 2, now it is discontinued. So let us go to the next valuable document in the regulatory framework called AR4. Regulatory, as we said, other than commercial documents, are those documents which deal with the policy framework of import and export, policy framework of trade and commerce, policy framework of revenue, taxes, sales tax, income tax, etc. AR4 is a primary document which is given to the excise department, central excise department, for clearance of goods from any factory without payment of excise duty. This means normally when goods are done, when trading is done, business is done in India, there is something called excise duty. It's a direct tax on the goods of manufacture. It is levied so that anything that is sold in the market gets the tax, and these taxes go into the government's revenue for use of public welfare. And like income tax is direct, this becomes an indirect tax. Sometimes the duty is less, the rate may differ. There are concessions that may also differ. But in general, whether it is nil duty, concessional duty, you have no authority to remove goods unless you are in the small scale sector. That is also up to a limit of turnover. So this is a document prepared in 6 copies, and it's a very valuable document which goes to the excise department, based on which they will come, verify go down in your warehouse, they will certify it, and they will deal with the 6 copies. We will come to that later. And it will be proof for the customs as well as government for incentives that yes, excisable goods have gone and you may kindly deal with it. The shipping bill is also a regulatory document. The CHA gives this, and it is prepared for purpose of incentives. Shipping bill means whether by sea or air, you can have various kinds of shipping bill. A shipping bill for export under duty drawback, a shipping bill for duty free goods, shipping bill for duty free under bond, dutiable or even for dutiable goods. So we will come to this in detail for the incentives, but the incentives will be given based on the nature of the shipping bill. So when you talk to your clearing agent, when you discuss with them, don't assume that they know everything. You must explain the nature of your exports or how you plan to function from your export order. That is why this becomes a valuable document. Port charges are also levied. The receipt for payment of port charges also becomes important. The Port Trust of India will levy it and they will give you a certificate. Even for movements inside that, only authorized vehicles can go in, and that is called a vehicle ticket. The number, name of the truck is mentioned, it goes on the tickets, and only then that vehicle can move inside the port. The reason is it is a very safe zone, and pilferage or any goods which are supposedly going out on concession should not enter the domestic market by the wrong route. Both ways, imported goods which are coming in free of duty or by concession should not go in the wrong hands. Alternatively, any goods which are not declared should not come out of the docks compound. So that is why the vehicle ticket and the port is very vigilant, and this is a high walled area, a very safe zone area, and a very highly security oriented area. So vehicle ticket and receipt become important. These are some of the regulatory ones. Now let us see some other certificates. For special items of sale or exports, we require some special certificates, especially when they are banned. When old good items of culture are exported, they are allowed with special license. They are called antiques. Now what happens is, you may redo one, you may copy a sculpture, you may copy a fancy chair or a door and say this is an antique. Just make a silver polish, make it old, put it in the rain, etc. and say it is antique. So what antique is selling, let's say for $1,000, it is costing you $10 and you can cheat somebody. To avoid this, to prevent this, there is a department which issues antiquity certificate. So it is a validation, like an inspection, that this is genuine antique and the price charged is correct. This is called antiquity cert. For measurements, when the goods are going, freight is levied on two bases. One, it is on volume. The other, it is by weight. A lot of times the weight may be less, but the volume of the container, that is why containers have a fixed volume. 20-foot container, 40-foot container, weight is so much. So who will decide? There is a Chamber of Commerce, an independent agency which is trusted by all, who are responsible for measuring and giving the weight or volume certificate. Based on this, the sea freight is charged. Similarly, bank certificate of export realization. If you remember, we had given an export realization certificate to RBI saying that the value of my goods is so and so, and I promise that I will collect the foreign exchange and declare it when I get it within 6 months. Now those 6 months are over. Within 6 months, even if you have a dispute, even if you give a concession, for whatever reasons, even if the ship has not reached, or you lost it in damage, or if it has reached, you have to ensure that you get your payment, and the bank will say, yes, I certify on behalf of my client that the foreign exchange has come. That is called bank certificate of export realization. It is similar to a bank realization certificate, but bank realization the exporter prepares as a promise and the bank prepares the other certificate. There is a very interesting certificate which is called blacklist certificate. Now, blacklist does not mean that you are blacklisted, but in certain political interests, in certain relationships between countries, you do not go over somebody's airspace, or you do not go over somebody's sea space, or there is a list of countries because of unrest that you do not want to touch. For example, these days you do not want to go via Libya, or you do not want to go near Egypt, or for any reasons. That's when, for long relationships, for example, the Gulf countries versus Israel, on grounds of their age-old enmity, they say, okay, if a cargo is coming to my country, then it should not travel via Israel, or it should not travel via an unfriendly terrorist country. those countries are blacklisted. That is called a blacklist certificate. So an exporter, when it is issuing the shipping lines, it should say, please do not take the ship via these countries, otherwise my importer will not buy it. Language certificate. This is another typical one. Some countries like a language certificate which is issued by Textile Commissioner, that all the labels are in English and everything is written in the particular language of that country. Like suppose it is Canada, they may want everything in French, Middle East may want it in Arabic, so also other Eastern countries may want it in Chinese. Certificate of chemical analysis. When you sell goods of chemical nature, metals, liquids, pharmaceuticals, you do not see on top, you cannot feel what is the content of it. You cannot see the density or the gravity of it. So who will certify that the grade of the metal or the alloy or the degree of concentration or the purity of it is correct? This is done only by chemical analysis. There are authorized agencies, there are laboratories designated, and they will certify certificate of chemical analysis which will accompany that consignment. Similarly, for livestock, food items, health items, fruits, vegetables, animals, or any kind of live items, you can get a health certificate from a veterinary department or a sanitary certificate or a Food and Drug Administration certificate saying that these goods are good for consumption, they are not contaminated, there is no disease on them, they are not carrying any flu. It becomes very important for perishable goods or live goods. Perishable means which has an expiry date and it has to be eaten or consumed or sold within a certain timeline. This is where you can get a health certificate. In some countries it is mandatory. Mandatory means compulsory to get a certificate of goods and services. The foreign embassy will sign this and the goods are sent so that they say it is safe for their internal consumers. They will not fall sick with it. These are the various varieties of certificates and documentations, and a combination of these basic certificates is used for any other purpose of either custom clearance or excise clearance or shipment or negotiation or getting your incentives. So the purposes are the same. I repeat, the purpose is for excise clearance, custom clearance, for imports, for negotiation of your documents to get your monies, and later on to get your incentives. So let us see how we can club these together in standard recognized required formats for every particular use. We'll go back to the very important one, the first one of AR4 or custom, the clearance from the excise department, because this is the first stage. Now copies of this document are used in all subsequent areas. It is called AR4, it has 6 copies, white, buff, pink, green, blue and yellow. Each one has a different purpose. The last one is retained by the exporter. The first one is retained by the excise department. A second copy goes to the customs department. A third goes to the duty drawback or the incentives department, and so on and so on. So this becomes an important list which we must fill out and monitor because they should not get lost. Now any exporter other than these documents has to have certain minimum requirements, again in terms of numbers or miscellaneous requirement. The very first one is called Import Export Code Number, IEC code. This is issued by the Promotion Council for that particular item in that particular state. Allotment of EDP number. EDP is the software number that is given by the customs for processing of the custom department, as now it has become computerized. First it was manual. RBI code number. This is given by the Reserve Bank for any foreign exchange transactions, inward or outward. For example, when we make the statement, remember we made it that inward remittance certificate or bank remittance certificate. Now how will they remember what did you import, what did you export? They will remember because you have a same RBI number on all the documents. In order to operate at the port, a designated bank these days like Punjab National Bank is there, and you have to open a current account in that bank. In this bank, you will get your incentives. That is why they need this bank account. Shipping bills, exchange control declarations, and endorsements, etc. Now, let us come after the excise clearance. The second big job is custom clearance. What is the nature of documents here? Whether it is by air or by sea, certain documents are common. The only difference will be airway bill or sea bill of lading. So, the first document is the shipping bill. Shipping bill was raised earlier. Commercial invoice. This is the proof of the value and quantity of goods sold. Exchange control declaration. That means you're promising even before you get the money that you will earn so much foreign exchange within 6 months. Copy of letter of credit or export order. Sometimes both can be given if there is any difference. This is the basis on which the government, the customs checks. You have promised to send 10 items. Why are you sending 11? Why are you sending 12? Why are you sending less? So it is checked both in value and in quantity. Packing list. This is an important document. That is why getting the endorsements here is so important. Certificate of origin. Shipper's declaration for export of goods under different schemes. This is like the shipping bill, as we said. This includes what framework or what is the government exim bank rule, exim policy rules that you are following for the getting of the incentives. And last but not the least, AR4 from the excise department. The second copy comes here. Some more documents are required. In some cases where you are not allowed for any particular export, if it is a special item, then excise or export license is required. Because in some cases we have to pay a duty for exporting. Unlike imports, a cess, it is called a cess. That means the government, it is a rare item and the government wants some money. Otherwise, it is a resource that will go, like cashews or spices invite this. Pre-shipment certificate. Marine insurance policy. Marine insurance is the cargo, marine or cargo policy. Antiquity certificate for antiques. Other special certificates for health and sanitary. Special legalized or consul invoice if and when required. This was given by the consulate. Freight declaration. A declaration of quality, quantity and value of goods. So you say this is exactly what I am sending, no more, no less. The vehicle challan, the vehicle ticket, the port charges, etc. So these are the documents which are collected. The custom may also insist maybe on something else, along with your IEC code, RBI code number and all the registration letterheads, etc., which are basic documents, and only then it can be given for custom clearance. What is custom clearance? Custom clearance is clearing of the goods at the port of exit, not imports in this case, port of exit. That means if you are sending out from the country, wherever they are leaving, the customs will check that you have promised silver, you are not sending gold. You have promised something which is not contraband. So they check the policy, they check the commercial terms, they check the buyer, they check the person who is sending it and verify that it is definitely correct and you are not trying to send value more than what you are really billing for. That is what they are checking. Sometimes you are away from the port where actually the ship comes. You are maybe in an inland area. Earlier this facility was not there, but for the last 2-3 decades, to help the government, to help the people, government has opened what is called the Inland Container Departments. This is called the ICD. It is a service where you can clear the custom paper formalities from an area away from the physical ship, but once it is cleared, it is treated as if exported and it will be kept under bond or a bonded warehouse away from domestic items. See, these are called ICDs. It is used for both, for getting the material and for sending it. So you can also import the container here, you can also send the container here. These ICDs function like the custom department. There is one in New Delhi at Tughlakabad. In Haryana you have it at Faridabad. In Andhra Pradesh you have it at Annaparti. In Karnataka you have it in Bangalore. In Ludhiana you have it in Dandarkala. In Gujarat, in Maharashtra, everywhere, every state is now having their own ICD. It is for the convenience. You can go on the website and you can find out which is your closest and relevant state authorized ICD. Now this was for exports by sea or air, which are the most common things. Sometimes you have a very small item and it can go by parcel. It can go by small post delivery. It can also go by courier. It is allowed now. Earlier it was not allowed. Maybe you are sending only a design drawing. Maybe you are sending a management report. Maybe you are sending a consultancy report. Maybe you are sending something of IT related or a tourism related. There is nothing that will go by the sea or it has to be loaded on the air. These things can go by post. This is called export by post. So, are the documents different? Yes and no. Very slight difference. They include, again, similar documents plus a custom declaration form wherein you are getting your incentives, exchange control declaration form, again the AR4, or a form for export under duty drawback, commercial invoice, certificate of origin, etc. So the documents are basically the same, but you can allow that as a by post and courier also. In some cities, you can also send an export by land. It can just go by the truck. So instead of a bill of lading or an airway bill, you will get a bill of export. Okay? So the drawback bill, the commercial invoice, packing list, certificate of origin, export order, all this remains the same. So the documents basically are of the same nature. And what does the custom people do? Why do they do it? Number one, they check the documents or the paper of shipping. Second, they check the physical goods of export and match the two. Third, they check whether you just did not bring it and take it back, you actually loaded it. And that is why they do the post-loading verification. So it is checked in 4 stages. On paper, actual physical goods which come for export, loading of the goods, and post-loading. This is the function of the customs, and at every stage there will be a paper which is important, the final being airway bill and shipping bill, which is given after it. Now even between this time there will be, the goods are kept under what is called loading of the cargo or in the bonded warehouse, bonded area. If it is by post, they will give you that the items have been posted. Let us come to a very critical area, the documents required for bank negotiation. Bank negotiation means you have a letter of credit and now you want your money. In this case, the letter of credit in original should be there, the bill of lading should be there, commercial invoice, certificate of origin, GR2, full set clear bill of lading, bill of exchange is the one that you are authorizing for payment, the insurance policy, and the certificate that for an inward remittance or advance payment, if you have received, you have to give that. So based on this, the bank has enough proof that yes, you had the order, you have sent it, the proof of the bill of lading is complete in itself. They will not do the custom clearance again, they believe that. And based on this, they can now demand from the importer and the importer's bank, please make payment, we have done all the conditions and satisfied the order, now please make us the payment. So then the bill of exchange, meaning in exchange for the bill of lading, please give us the money. So this set is very important and no discrepancies should come up here. Many problems arise at this stage because the banker says, oh, you forgot to give inspection certificate. Oh, but the agency said, no, this is not correct. So that is where you have to be very careful and complete your paperwork and get your money. After you've got it, you will get it, the inward remittance from the bank which then you will submit to the RBI in a separate application that we had promised this is the exports, these are our imports, and we have got back the foreign inward remittance and closed the chapter of that consignment. So this is the commercial and the functional side of the documentation. You will notice it goes along with every kadi of every link of the production process and the dispatch process, right from planning the order. But why are we in exports in the first place? What have we done with our pricing? We have based it on certain incentives. So let us see why the government is helping us and where we can get the benefit of our hard labor and our detailed work, which is called incentives for export. The categories of incentives are not just financial. Normally we think इसमें कितना पैसा है, इससे क्या मिलेगा, इनसे incentive क्या मिलेगा, drawback कितना है. But there is more to this. So we can divide it from in many ways. The first kind of incentive is linked to your actual export performance. That means the more you export, the more benefit you get. The second kind is marketing efforts. You may not have got the order, but you did make an effort. That is called marketing effort. The third is fiscal incentive. Fiscal means indirectly they are trying to help you in some form. We will see the details soon. Import facility. They are also helping you to import the goods for the export purposes. Export financing incentives. We have seen that you can get pre-shipment or post-shipment finance. Foreign currency fluctuation, there is a risk of that also. That is another incentive. Last but not the least, recognition of the exporter. That means the more you export, the bigger you get. Let us come to the heart of the incentive based on export performance. Basically, there are 4 kinds of you can get incentives. First is duty drawback. Duty drawback means any cash that was spent for sales tax or excise duty, octroi or anything that you incurred in the process of manufacture or acquisition, whether it is service tax or any taxes, which came into your product, after exporting that, you are claiming the rebate of those duties. The government is allowing that, saying that okay, these goods were not in India, so it has gone abroad, it has helped the foreign exchange inflow, now this is your incentive. So duty drawback is an incentive that you get based on the actual performance for monies incurred and expended. Duty-free replenishment certificate. Suppose you got some goods and you have used it. Now you have also paid duty because you had no time to get a license. Remember, the import license can come, duty-free license also you can get. But you had no time for that, you would use the goods. After the export, you can go back and ask the government that I have used, let's say, 100 meters cloth into this and I have paid that. Now can I import the same material? The government allows. Replenishment means if you have used something, you use it, you get another material to replenish that. So they will say you do not have to pay custom duty now, although exports is complete. Now you can get it and use the same material for further import or export, or you can even sell that material. But that quantity is limited to the input-output ratios that are printed in the handbook of import-export policy. There is a policy which is updated every year and there are ratio of input-output, that means production norms. So that much quantity, if you have used 100 meters, you will be allowed to get 100 meters, but no payment of custom duty. You may have to pay excise duty a little bit, countervailing duty, but not the basic duty. There is a third scheme, Duty Entitlement Passbook, DEPB scheme. In this, suppose you have used domestic material or whatever by paying, or even imported by paying custom duty. After it is exported, you will get a credit. That means that amount of export on the export, there is an import duty credit. You will get a sum credited to your passbook. And when you import some other material, You are free to import any material of your choice other than what you really used. You can import it without payment of duty to that extent. It's really like a bank passbook that I have collected $100 because I used it on that export. Now those $100 I can import some other goods and without payment, and these $100 will be adjusted as custom duty. The beauty of this is that you can use it for any other raw material other than original. So maybe if something is special, or maybe you want an item for your maintenance, or you want it for your machine, you can get it. You can also sell that material. That is also allowed because it is within the law. You have already paid duty once. Then there are special licenses for special items. If you need very exclusive, you can get that. Green card. Green card is a facility again based on your export performance. The more you export, the higher you become, and you can be declared as merchant exporter, trading house, star trading house, superstar trading house. You get green card, which means automatically your formalities are reduced. You can get automatic licensing, custom clearances, excise, etc. much faster. Everything has a rate to it. Each one has as per the policy, and the rules are definitely levied. In addition to this, you have a market development assistance, or what is called for publicity or promotion, foreign travel, exhibitions. For this also the government is giving the export houses. These have to be applied through the FIEO, or Federation of Indian Exporters. There is something called fiscal incentives. Fiscal meaning you can get a sales tax exemption, income tax concessions, no payment of excise duty, etc. So for your normal day-to-day performance, these benefits are also availed in case it is exported. As we said, recognition of exporters. There is something that is EOU, SEZ, EPZ. Now these terms are beneficial, and you can be in these zones, and all the trading, the documentation is less, the hassles are less, the headaches are less, and the speed is faster. Suppose you are in that, you are an exporter of a recognized thing, you will be the first person to be given a preference for a special order. Or maybe there is a team of foreigners visiting, you will be called first. You will be getting the preference for the bulk orders or the quotas. You can further trade this with your juniors, or you can share this also for funding or financing. Anybody can get this. It is valid for 3 years and there is no problem at all. Financing of exports. This is another incentive that the government is giving. There is a pre-shipment finance and there is a post-shipment finance. Pre-shipment means from the time you book the raw material till you send your goods out. Post-shipment is once your bill of lading is there, once your export is done, if there is a credit period, then during that period you can get the finance from the government. Special agencies like Exim Bank, Export-Import Bank, does this work. Also risk coverage by ECGC, Export Credit and Guarantee Corporation, they are also helping. So these are sometimes there is another risk and there is a fluctuation of currency. Here also for exports the government is giving special coverage, special percentages, and hedging is allowed by the commercial banks or the Exim banks. So there are many stages and many situations where the government at every stage tries to hold your hand, including even the small scale sector. There is organizations like NSIC, ITPO, the local export promotion councils. For every item there is one, and in each area they are helping the local people to promote it. There is also cluster development. That means suppose it is brassware. All the people who are doing brassware like in Muradabad, they come together and they are helped by the government and they create special collective tenders, or they can bid for export orders and they will be given a chance to meet the foreign buyers. Let's say t-shirts in Ludhiana or Tirupur in the south, or steel, or let's say the diamond and gold merchants in Surat, or the hosiery in Jalandhar. So there is cluster development which it is basically collective strength, and they are getting the export facility, export incentive, and the latest technology. Even for upgrading technology, government is giving assistance by way of subsidies, credit guarantees, and concessional loans, so that we are capable of sending out exports. So we are seeing at many stages that government helps us, holds our hand, but there is no shortcut for your own hard work, for your own being very careful, and there is a lot of business in the world. There is a lot of capability in India. We speak English, we are educated, and we can capture the local market as also the global market in great strength if we work hard and if we work honestly. We should not be showing one sample and sending another sample. That is where we go wrong. We should be very careful, because it is also the brand image of our country which we are promoting when we sell, whether it's a needle or it's a big machine or it is IT. We have seen what the engineers of India, what the IT industry has done. It has taken the entire industry global, and it has taken everybody by storm, that India is a growing market, a developing nation, and it is there in a growing economy. So not only the direct IT, but because of that, foreigners come inside, and the tourism has grown, medical tourism has grown, ecotourism has grown, culture has grown, and all the related facilities of, just because some of our engineers went abroad and created a good impact and exported their knowledge and brain. Similarly, whether we are sending a packet of rice or a skirt or a jacket or a stool, we must remember that it is the image of India that we are also promoting and marketing, not only the short-term gain of 1 rupee or one incentive, or let us say benefit because of the export in the domestic market. It is a long-term game, a long-term thinking, and most people who have done diligently, hard work and honestly have always prospered, and there is much more scope in this field for all of us. So with this, I hope the series has been informative. If there are any questions, we would be happy to receive them. And for any information, as I said, you can always go to the local center of DGFT, the local center of your district industries center, which is there in every state and every district. You can approach the specialized export promotion councils. There is one for every field. They are listed all over the country. It is not difficult. Their websites are available. Trade journals are there, and from time to time you can also have the feedback, etc. from your buyers. So with this, I will like to conclude the series. I hope it has been fruitful, and we look forward to your questions and more people joining the export business and import business. Good luck and thank you.